So with arrays, we kind of covered this before. There's these things called built-in methods that arrays have that perform specific actions on these arrays that are very common in the realm of programming. In the spreadsheet I passed out, or that I slacked out, this specific one, I did give you links to everything. So if we go all the way back, we have common built-in methods for strings, numbers, arrays, and objects. We're really going to focus on arrays tonight. So here are some built-in methods, but not all of them. If I were to click on this little link, and I'm taken to Mozilla Developer Network. This is like the official documentation of JavaScript. There's also like W3 Schools is a good resource. It's a little easier to read, but here's the array description on Mozilla Developer Network, and it tells you kind of like what an array is. And then on the left-hand side, it says methods, and it says array.from, array.isArray, and these are all the built-in methods that you can perform actions on arrays, and we're going to cover some of them tonight. And then we'll actually go through some challenges that we can utilize some of these methods to solve some of the challenges. So we have .push, which adds an element to the end of the array. We have .pop, which removes an element from the end of the array. We have .shift, which removes the first element of the array, and unshift, which adds an element to the beginning of the array. So we'll actually go through this right now. So let's just go through those two. REPL. I'm going to create a new REPL. JavaScript. What is it? July 14th. Create REPL. Right here. All right. So where are we at? So I'm just in a blank REPL, and if I have an array of tech companies like I've done before, and I want to go and do a .push, I can come here and say, call the array tech companies, and I want to push in a new tech company to the end of the array. So another tech company like Amazon, so I can execute that code, and like nothing actually returns except for the length of the array now. But if I now console log and print to the screen, tech companies array, if I run it, I get Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, and now Amazon. So I'm pushing Amazon to the end of the array. If I wanted to add another one, it's Palantir, which is another tech company. It's going to push Amazon first to the end of the array, and then it's going to push Palantir to the end of the array. So right here, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Palantir. Does anybody have any questions about pushing elements to the array?
No questions from this side, but it looks like someone asked if you can zoom in a little.
Oh, thank you. Is that better? There we go. Is that better?
Yes.
Awesome. And yeah, and just if you have a question or like need me to zoom in, feel free to interrupt and be like, hey, can you stop? Can you please zoom in? I can't see. Appreciate it. Thanks. All right. So we're pushing elements to the end of the array. I'm going to move that. There we go. Now, if we look at some other ones, we have pop, which removes elements from the end of the array. So I'm pushing to the array, and now I'm going to actually pop off the last element of the array. So if I run this, again, nothing's really probably going to, so pop removes Palantir from the end of the array. So if I console log, tech companies. So initially I push Amazon, I push Palantir, I console log it right here. And then I pop the last element off of the array, which is Palantir, which shows up here when I run this code. And now I'm going to console log tech companies. So ideally it should be all of them except for like right here. So there we go. So this mutates the existing array tech companies.
So when you're using the pop method, let's say I wanted to remove Microsoft, would I have to call that index or even, I guess, the value in order to remove Microsoft?
We'll get to there, but let's just try that out. Let's let's try to pop off. This is what's cool. We can experiment. Okay, well, I can pop maybe the index off of it. So I can do Apple, Facebook. So 0, because indexes of arrays start at 0. So 0, 1, 2. So maybe I want to pop off index 2. Let's run that. Nope, still nothing. It still just pops off the very end. So pop literally is only popping off the end of the array. You can't do in any index. You can't specify the value within the array to pop off, but we will get to there shortly.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So we have pop. All right. So I'm gonna keep those. I'm gonna keep this array going, and now we have shift and unshift. So removes the first element of the array, and unshifts adds elements to the beginning of the array. So what if let's just go tech companies dot shift and then console log tech companies. So if I run that, here's the initial one with Apple at the very front. I run this dot shift on the array. I'm not passing in any arguments. I'm just invoking it with the parentheses. So I run this, and now this dot shift removes Apple from the beginning of the array. So now when I print console log the tech companies, Apple is now missing from there, and it shifts all the other elements in the array to the left one down an index. So now index Facebook is now at index 0, Microsoft at 1, Google at 2, etc. Does anybody have any questions about the dot shift method on the array? All right. So dot shift. But now let's add, just like push adds to the end of the array, unshift adds an element to the beginning of the array. So I can call tech companies dot unshift, and what's a new tech company? That's Netflix. So Netflix. So, and I'm going to console log tech companies again. So I push Amazon and Palantir to the end of this array. So Amazon, Palantir. And when I run it, I'm going to unshift Netflix to the beginning of the array. So it should be Netflix, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. So if I run that, now you see just like the formatting is a little bit different. That's totally fine. It's just the formatting thing of the console when an array expands beyond 7 elements. It has a little different formatting. So here's the beginning open array, the bracket, closing bracket. And now we have Netflix at the beginning, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Palantir. Does anybody have any questions about that? About pushing elements to the end of the array, unshifting elements to the beginning of the array. So pushing them, or it's not pushing them, but like adding them to the beginning of the array, popping them off from the end of the array, and shift, which is popping them or removing them from the beginning of the array. So for example, if I wanted to, if I had Netflix and let's go like that. So I'm pushing, let's just console log this right now, just so we have an array. Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Palantir, and Netflix. Say if I wanted to add Netflix to the beginning of the array, how would I do that? Like literally move Netflix from the back of the array to the front of the array.
Could you do a
Pop and unshift?
yeah.
Pop and unshift. All right, so let's try it. So I can do tech companies, techcos dot pop, and then I can assign that to a variable. Let company, and then I can unshift that company, techcos dot unshift company, and now I can console log the tech company. So I'm popping, so I'm adding Amazon, Palantir, Netflix. I'm pushing that to the end of the array, and now I'm popping off the most recent one, which is, or the most recent one added to the end of the array, which is Netflix. I'm assigning it to a variable called company, which is Netflix now. And now I'm passing in the company variable, which is Netflix, into the unshift, which adds it to the beginning of the array. So I run that. So there's the first one, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Palantir, Netflix. Now it's Netflix, Apple, Microsoft, or Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Palantir. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yep. Tom, are you able to just connect those methods? So like techcodes.pop, leave it empty, dot unshift Netflix without assigning it to the variable?
So if I just run this?
Yeah, with Netflix between the parentheses of unshift.
So see, I'm like, I want to kind of avoid hard coding anything. So I want to actually grab the actual value at the last index instead of automatically assigning it. But are you talking about like something like this?
Yes.
We can try it, but let's run that. Might get an error. So we got an error. So this value right here isn't an actual array. Let's actually see what just pop is. So let's just go back and comment that stuff out and kind of do tech companies dot pop dot unshift Netflix. So this is what we were trying to do. Through this error, techcodes.pop.unshift is not a function. It's like, okay, I don't necessarily know what that means. So this dot unshift can only work on arrays. So it's assuming that this value right here is an array that we're running unshift on. But if we comment this out and we console log techcodes.pop and what that value looks like. So it's just a string called Netflix. And we can ensure we know what data type that is. It is in fact a string. So it's not an array. So I can't use a string dot unshift. It has to be an array type. It kind of answer your question?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
It felt like it would be less code, but it doesn't work. So okay, thank you.
Right. And it's like the whole, we're not trying to optimize for the least amount of code. We're also trying to optimize for what's the most readable as a developer. I could also, instead of assigning techcodes.pop to a variable, I could just place this in here. And it should still work, but that's not very it's not that bad. It still does it. It still pops Netflix off the end and then puts it to the beginning. But it's kind of like, okay, what is it? What's actually going on in here? I'm unshifting. Okay, but okay, now I have to know what that is. Where this is kind of like a little more readable if I'm reading, down, like left or right, up and down, or left and right, up and down. I can see, all right, I'm signing a variable, or I'm declaring a variable company. I'm assigning it to this value, and now I'm unshifting this company. So it's kind of a little bit easier to read from just from a developer standpoint. All right. Now we're going to get into slice and splice. So this is where if we want to explicitly grab something from the middle of the array, or so slice returns a copy of the array of starting elements and ending elements. So if we come over here, I'm just going to I declared a new variable called alpha, like the alphabet. And we can say let values equals an array alpha. So let's just do this. Alpha dot slice, and slice, we want to slice off or just return specific elements of this array. So if we wanted to return C, D, and E, we start at index, so 0, 1, 2. So we pass in 2. And so it's inclusive of the index. And then, so if we only want C, D, and E, we want to end at 0, 1, 2, 3, not 4, but 5. So if I run that, we might not even say anything. Oh.
Hey, Tom, you're not going to be able to run that as well because you're
Alpha. Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. So it says reference error alpha. Like, I don't know what the hell that is. So alpha is not defined on line 21 right here. Thank you. So if I run that, it returns C, D, and E. So it returns a starting index and an ending index that we have to pass in. The starting index is the starting index that we want, and the ending index is exclusive. So we're going up to 5, but not including the 5th value at that, or the index at, or the value at index 5. So we're including the value at index 2, and we're excluding the value at index 5. But now, if I console log alpha, so we're like, let's see what this actually returns. So we're slicing off 2 and 5, or C, D, and E, but when we're console logging alpha again, it's still just A, B, C, D, E, and F, G. So it returns a copy of this array. So it doesn't actually mutate the original array. So this is when you essentially want to keep the original array intact and just return specific values of elements within the array. So I can say let values equal. I can console log values. And if I run that, so C, D, and E, but the original array is still intact. So that values is just a copy of this array. It's essentially just an array of C, D, and E. what questions do you have about the slice method? So it doesn't mutate the original array. It just returns a copy of the array with the elements that you specify with a starting index and an ending index. Starting index is inclusive, which means it's including that index, and the ending index is exclusive, which is not including this index. Do you have any questions about that?
Would this apply to an array of objects? And when you slice, it would slice away those specific, like all those objects?
Yep, so I can just do like let array of objects and just do, name, Tom. So let's make an array. So there's one. What else do we have? So if you see right here, we have an array of objects with the object has one key of name. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I just want to grab Aaron and Stacy, I can grab Aaron, which is the first index. And let's change that out. It's actually, I'll do this down below. Just so. Put an array of objects. If I do array of objects dot slice, if I just want to grab Aaron and Stacy, you could say like let Aaron, Stacy. So Aaron is at the first index of the array, and Stacy is at the third or second index of the array. So I slice at index 1 and then end it at index 3 because it's exclusive. So I have to end it right here because it only includes these two values. So if I console log Aaron, Stacy, and run that, it just returns an array of Aaron and Stacy. If I console log Aaron and Stacy, or array of objects, this array is still the same. So yeah, it doesn't matter what is in the array as long as it's an array you can run array methods on. That kind of answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Cool. All right, that's the slice. So I'm going to go down here and talk about the splice. We'll actually use the tech companies again. So we have the tech companies. We'll just keep them at that. So if we come over here, the splice changes the contents of an array by removing or replacing elements and or adding new elements. So that's splice. So we have the tech companies. So let's just run this to clear it. Does that even do clear? That doesn't do anything. All right. So I have console log, I'm gonna just tech companies. And then if I want to remove elements, so let's just run that. So I have Apple, Facebook, all the tech companies. If I want to remove the Google, or let's remove the Microsoft, Google, and Amazon from this array, I can do techcompos.splice, and we can do whatever index this starts at. So 0, 1, 2. And then also, so we want to remove these three. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So where the starting index and the ending index are both inclusive. So I can go ahead and console log tech companies this again and see if those indexes are removed. So now I just have Apple, Facebook, and Netflix with Amazon, Google, and Microsoft removed. So it removes the elements between index 2 and index 4. So index 2, 3, 4. It removed all that from the existing array. And now here's the remaining array, tech codes array. So the splice method actually mutates the original array. Anybody have any questions about that? So if I wanted to replace one of these with, so for example, say if I wanted to replace Google, or what company should I replace with what company? Someone say something. Blurt out which tech company.
Amazon with Microsoft.
So that's just replace. So are we replacing one and removing one?
Facebook with Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do Facebook and Twitter. So
Sorry about that. So
oh no, you're good. I was going to do one of them. So tech codes, splice. I can say I can remove the first. Oh, whoops. So Facebook is at the first index, and how many indexes do I actually want to replace? So I only want to replace like one index. So go ahead.
0.
Yep. So I'm only going to move. I could say move one index, but I don't. I don't want to move any indexes. I just want to use this one. And it takes in another argument. I can say Twitter, which is what I want to replace it with. So right here, it's Apple, Facebook. Uh-oh, what happened? Microsoft. So it said Apple, Twitter, Facebook. So what happened? So I didn't. So I only want to, let's see if I do one. That's what I wanted. So, yeah, it didn't work with. So Apple, Facebook, Microsoft. So I pat whatever index I want to replace and how many indexes I actually only want. So I only want to replace the Facebook index, which is, it doesn't have to be the first index. If I wanted to replace Google, it would be 1, 2, or 0, 1, 2, 3. I can say replace the third index, only include this, just the 1. If I included 2, it would have replaced these 2 indexes. So let's just run this one just so it's not the same. So I replace Google with Twitter right here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and I'm only going to replace one index, which is the Google one, and I'm replacing it with Twitter. If I wanted to replace 3 indexes with Twitter, it'll say Google, Amazon, Palantir, and Netflix with Twitter. So if I run that, it'll actually get smaller. Or yeah, so it replaces these 3. 1, 2, 3. So it essentially removes Google, Amazon, and Palantir. Does anybody have any questions with the splice? We rarely ever actually use splice, but it's cool. All right, moving on. So we also have the index of returns the index of an element. So if we're using tech companies, or no, let's use the alphabet. So if I wanted to return the index of D, I can say alpha dot index of with a capital, invoke it, and pass whatever argument I want in here that I want to find. So if I want to find the index of D, I can run that. It says 3, 0, 1, 2, and then 3. This could also work on strings as well. So if I had like string alpha, A, B, C, D, E, you know, and if I wanted to find the index of the string alpha, dot index of D, or let's just do K, returns the index of 10 in this string. So the index of both works on arrays and strings. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you're unable to find the index, so Z, it'll return a -1. Let's see if that actually does it. It might return something else. Yeah, it returns a -1. Anybody have any questions about the index of? I know there's a couple of problems out there that you can use the index of to find stuff.
If there's more than one index, it'll only return the first one it finds, correct?
Yes, sorry. That's a good point. So let's do. So if this alpha array had like another index of D, and if I run that, it returns the very first index, that the value, or returns the index of the very first occurrence of that value going from left to right. So it comes down here, finds it right here. All right, index 3, even though there's another value at the last index.
Hey, Tom, is there something that you could actually use to find all of the values that would be like D?
No, I don't think there is. There's not like a single method that's like, hey, return all the values at specific index. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think there is. So in that case, you might have to, that's a good point. It's a good segue to one of these other methods. So, well, not, yeah. So joins all the elements of the array into a single string. So if we wanted to convert this into just a single string, we can console log and say like let string alpha equals alpha dot join, and let's see what this looks like. Alpha string alpha, and I run that. Oh, what's going on? It's going to throw an error. So running, we're just going to do a hard refresh. Come on, REPL.
Is it because you got it commented out?
No, because I'm assigning the value down here. I need to do that. Let's see if oh, I'm an idiot because I'm not actually console logging anything. So if I join it, so it just returns, what is that? String alpha. See what that looks like. there we go. So you pass in what you want, like the separations of how you want each element joined together. So if I just left it a join like empty, it just has a comma separated value of a string. So if I do type of, it's a string, but it's a string of that looks like that with all the commas or commas in between it. So when we in the join, we can specify, hey, what do you want actually joining them together? Do you want a space? So I can actually do a space in between all of them. Oops. And it'll be A, B, C with spaces. I can do what's actually the in between element that's joining them. So I can do that. But if I don't want anything in between it, I can just do open quotes, just a quotes with no space, like that. So that's how you can do join. Does anybody have any questions about join?
And split is the one that would reverse that, correct? The split method?
So, yep, let's look at console log string alpha dot split, and let's run that. So splits, yeah. So it splits at each character. What do you want to split at? So this joins them together, and the split, and I can, if I do like a space, it's still gonna, so there aren't any spaces in this string. So it's looking for where is it gonna split that value at. So it's gonna say, hey, split at each empty space and make each individual element an array. But so, since this one, there aren't any spaces, it just returns a single length array with everything in it. But if I just want to split at every single character, I can just do split like that. And now it splits it at every single character.
Is there like a real life example you could give for use, like a use case for that?
For split?
For a split and join?
I would say, like, if you want to, arrays are easier to manipulate. So if you have a string or something, and you want to split that string into an array and then perform one of these methods on the array, do some logic on each individual element, and then you can join that array back together into a string. That is a use case. So if you want to, because it's easier, it's a little easier to manipulate arrays than it is just to do strings. So instead of here, you joining and then splitting, you would split it and then join it. So for example, if you want to, yeah, I'm trying to think, split it. So if you have, let phone number equals 312-555-1896. And you just want to extract just the actual number out of here. You can say, so here, I'm just going to move this down. You can say like let or console log phone number dot split, and you want to split it at the array. Let's just console log that. So now we have that, and now we can let number array, and now we can like let number modified phone number equals num array dot join, like that. Oh, what happened? We got an extra bracket, and then we can console log the modified phone number. So now we have a string, and now to convert that into a number, we can literally reassign modified phone number into, there's two ways to make things a number. So I'm reassigning modified phone number to itself with the plus sign that converts it to a number. So I can console log modifying phone number. And now I actually have a number, like a phone number. So that's like one example.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool, no problem. All right. Let's get into for each and map. So for each is an alternative to a for loop, kind of. You know how we do like for, like if we just do a basic for loop, for let I equals 0, I is less than the alphabet dot length, I plus plus, and I want to capitalize each letter in the alphabet. I can do alpha at index I right here. Okay, if I run that, it grabs the index, and I can do two upper case because I want to uppercase each element. So if I just want to console log each element. So there's this other way we can do that, which is the for each method. So for each executes a function on every element in the array. So what does that look like? So if I do alpha dot for each, and this is what is known as a higher order function, which is this function takes in a function as its argument. So I can say element, so I'm creating another function, just like an anonymous function. Element takes in the element, or like the value at index. So it's going to loop through this array. So for each value at the index, I can console log the value at the index, and let's run that and see what that looks like. Uh-oh. So I'm getting A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So I can do two uppercase. I can run that, and I can get the same output as I would if I did a normal for loop. But the only difference, well, it takes in a function as an argument. So I can even write a function called const make uppercase, which takes in an element and console logs element dot to uppercase, and in place of here, I can literally just call, is it make uppercase? I just want to see if this works. This is going to throw an error, I know it. Oh, no, it didn't. Cool. So I'm passing in this function, make uppercase, which automatically passes. So yeah, passing it. So I declared a function called make uppercase that takes in an argument. I'm calling it element, and it's console logging the element to uppercase. So I'm expecting a string, and I'm making that string uppercase, and I'm passing that argument or this function into the for each method as an argument, and it's automatically passing each element into this, each value at each index into here as an argument, and it's calling that. but you're most likely going to see it written like this. So you can execute a function on each and every element. Does anybody have any questions? We're going to expand on this a little bit, show you other examples.
Is one more preferred over the other, kind of like industry standard?
Like, what do you mean, for each and for
Yeah,
loops?
for each, or for the for loop or the for each method.
You'll see for loops probably more often just because they're just more commonly used. You can run a for loop on a string, for example, but there's not really like a preferred one or the other. It's just kind of use whatever you feel is best. No one's going to judge you like, oh my God, you could have used a for each, or why didn't you use a for each? No one's ever going to say that.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool. So if we have like another let number array equals 1, 2, or 4, 5, and I wanted to num array dot for each takes in an element, and you'll see stuff written like this. It's like an anonymous function. It's literally just like it's kind of written like a fat arrow function. I mean, it is a fat arrow function without a named. It's called an anonymous function. And I can console log, element times 2. So it's going to loop through for each element. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Console log element times 2. So it's going to go for the first one. First element times 2 is 2. Second element times 2 is 4, 6, 8, 10. So if I run that, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Now the for each method, there's multiple arguments you can pass into this anonymous function. Always the very first argument you pass in corresponds to the element. If you pass in another argument, it will always be the index. So I can console log the index here. So it's going to be 2, 0 right here. 2. So I could say like index index 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4. Just some additional functionality of the for each method.
Question, Tom.
Yep.
Can you pass a function that's already been declared on the for each method, or does it only work with local scope functions?
So a method that's already been declared.
A function that's already been
declared. like right here, like this function's already been declared.
Yeah, can you make uppercase between the for each?
Yep. I thought I did that, but yeah, let's go through that again. So I can, in place of this whole code, I can just pass in that entire function into here. Comment that out. Loop through each. Where'd alpha go? All right, alpha, and pass in the value at the first index, or the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 into here, and execute this function numerous times. Like that. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So yeah, you can do that. All right. Let's go through one more, and then we'll release you to, or then we're going to work on a couple of challenges. Or yeah, we'll take a break and then we'll go through some challenges. So the last one is map. So let's look at what map does. So map actually returns a new array with the result of the function that is called on every element. So I'll just come over here. I've got a number array, 5, 6, 7, or 5, 10, 15, 20. And I can say, I'm going to add, add 2. So I'm going to add 2, which is going to take in an array. Actually, I'm just going to do it from scratch. Num array dot map, and it's very similar to map returns a new array, so we have to actually assign it to a value. So map answer takes in an element, just like for each does, takes in a function, so like elements, and we can say return the element. So loops through each element, 1 or 5, 10, 15, 20. 5, 10, 15, 20 is passed into here, element plus 2. And if I run that, let's see if I get an error. So I get 7. What does that 7 even mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't even know where that 7 is coming from initially. But now if I console log the answer, it should be a new array with 7, 12, 17, 22, etc. So it returns a new array of the result of whatever you returned inside this function that you pass into the map. So it iterates through, maps through each element. 5 returns element plus 2, assigns it to the first index, or the value at index 0. 10 plus 2 assigns that to the second, or the first index. 15 pass into here. 15 plus 2 is 17. It like returns that, passes it into the index 2, and so forth. Does anybody have any questions about the map?
So map is like for each, where it's an alternative to a for loop.
Yes, but map specifically returns another array.
Okay.
So for example, if you wanted to say, where is it? 2, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I said, hey, return an array of all the odd numbers in this num array. So I would say like odd array. And I would say like if element modulus 2 does not equal 0. This is going to be bad because it's not going to return element. It's still good. It's not a good example because it's going to return a bunch of nulls and undefines. So I can say maybe this will actually work. But see how it's only returning 1, 3, 5, 7, 9?
Right.
But if I did yeah, I think there's an actually example of it. Let's look at map. Oh, so that just returns that. Yeah, I think a for each would be it'd be a better choice for this specific example. But
So it seems like map is useful for when you're dealing with arrays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it'll always return this essentially an array of the same length as the input array. I'm pretty sure. I don't know of a time where I've experienced with having be a different.
Would you say that a map is like Splice, where we might not touch on it that much? Or a little bit more common, less common?
It's less common than for each.
Okay.
And yeah. But you do see it in React, but that's way down the line. All right. Let's go ahead and does anybody have any questions about this? Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break or 6-minute break. Be back at 7:10, and we'll jump into a couple of